This week on TechRap, Apple previews upcoming versions of macOS and iOS. We tell you what features we liked and didn't like. Sony shows off the PlayStation 4 for the very first time, while Microsoft tells us when we can get the next Xbox. And we give you a sneak peek of all the smartphones Starmobile is about to release. Hi, I'm Michael Josh, and this is TechRap, your weekly source for tech news, gadget reviews, app recommendations, and social media tips. In the 33 weeks that we've been doing the show, there's always been something big to report every week. But man, what a week this is. Every big name in technology has something important to announce. Let's start with Sony and Microsoft, who took the spotlight at the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3, taking place in LA this week. Sony announced the PlayStation 4 back in February, but gamers were left hanging because the console did not make an appearance. This week, the Japanese tech company finally unveils its newest gaming gadget, along with its plans for the brand. The PlayStation 4 is a 12-inch box powered by an x86 processor and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Unlike its competitor, the Xbox One, the PS4 focuses on being a gaming device instead of an all-around media hub. Speaking of games, Sony also announces a range of games that's sure to get every PlayStation fan excited. Gaming company Square Enix announces the latest version of the popular role-playing game Final Fantasy 15, a redubbed version of Final Fantasy Versus 13. The company also announces a sequel to one of their most loved games, Kingdom Hearts 3. Other notable titles announced were Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, NBA 2K14,
yeah, I'm here for the long run,
and Diablo 3. The PlayStation 4 will be released this holiday season with a price tag of $399. That's about 17,000 pesos. Not to be outdone, Microsoft also made announcements for its new entertainment console, the Xbox One. Microsoft promises 16 game titles will likely be exclusive to the Xbox One, including a new Halo, Minecraft, Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, and Killer Instinct. Users can also broadcast the games they're playing with a video streaming partner, Twitch.tv. The Xbox One will be available in November 2013 for $100 more than the PS4. That's $499 US, about 21,000 pesos. Also announced is a new model of the Xbox 360, which looks and feels like the Xbox One. The new 360 is priced at $199 for the 4GB model without Kinect, $299 for the 250GB model, and $299 for the 4GB Kinect bundle. After holding back on major announcements for the first half of the year, Apple's big guns took to the stage at their Worldwide Developers Conference in San Francisco to talk about the upcoming versions of its desktop and smartphone operating systems. First off was macOS X. If you're a Mac user, you've probably lived through a series of OSs named after big cats. There was Panther, Leopard, Tiger, and the most recent one was Mountain Lion. This year, Apple abandons the cat naming convention and will now take inspiration from places in California. The next OS due September or October is called OS X 10.9 Mavericks, named after a popular surfing spot south of San Francisco. Mavericks comes with 200 new features and, of course, Apple is calling it their best version yet. Some features include tabbed browsing in Finder. We talked about this a few episodes back. Tabbed browsing will make it easier to organize files and sort through folders of messy files. I know I'd use find this feature useful. Speaking of file organization, Apple is bringing tagging front and center. When you save a file, you can then and there assign tags to a document, for example. Then when looking for files, you can use a Finder sidebar to search for files based on tags. Notification Center receives an upgrade too. Now when you get a prompt after receiving a new iMessage, you can reply to it from the notification itself. Cool, right? Without having to leave the window. I also like the new sidebar in Safari that pulls in all the links your Twitter friends have been tweeting about. It's the best Twitter integration that I've seen yet. You don't have to be on Twitter to check out all the recommendations from your friends. And last but definitely not the least, Apple improves its support for external monitors. One big problem I've always had is when I open an app full screen on my Mac, it shows up full screen on my external monitor too. But sometimes the reason you use a secondary monitor in the first place is so that you can have a second app on a different screen. With Mavericks, the second screen is independent. It has its own menu bar, its own dock, and you can run a separate app in full screen. No word on pricing yet. All Apple is saying about availability is that it's coming this fall. Of course, I've saved the best for last. For me, the biggest news of the entire week was iOS, and it's significant for many reasons. First, a lot of users have been complaining that Apple has been left in the dust in terms of innovation, particularly when compared to Android. Then there was the departure of Scott Forstall last year. We did a whole feature on it in TechRap a few months back, and raised an important debate about skeuomorphic design. That's design that takes references from real-life objects. For example, the Notepad app looks like a pad of yellow paper, iBooks has a wooden bookshelf, Game Center has a green felt background like a poker table does. They say Forstall and Steve Jobs were both advocates of skeuomorphic design. Now, when Forstall left, however, industrial design was Johnny Ive, who's behind most of Apple's recent design wonders, was put in charge of iOS. Many iOS users, me included, have been waiting with bated breath for what Ive was going to do to iOS. The result was front and center at WWDC 2013. So how do we like it? There are some pros and some cons. As expected, skeuomorphism on iOS is dead. I've replaced it with flat-looking icons over a moving background that adjusts to how you tilt the phone. Apple is calling it a parallax effect. Now, we have mixed feelings about this new flat look, but it's slowly growing on us. We saw a font change. A new taller, thinner font is used, reminiscent of Windows Phone 8, actually. It works in some places, but in some it's just ugly. There were also a few features borrowed from Android. One of them, Control Center, is something I've wanted for a long time. On some Android customizations, users get a drop-down notifications panel that gives you easy access to settings like turning on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Now, Control Center works the same way, but instead of swiping down, you swipe up to reveal a host of options, including Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on-off, brightness controls, and shortcuts to features like a flashlight, calculator, and camera. AirDrop is a feature in macOS X 10.8 that allows users to send files wirelessly. That feature is now available in iOS. Also, I'm really liking the new camera app. You can swipe to change camera modes from video camera to the regular camera to a new square camera and panoramas. In camera and square camera, you also get Instagram-like filters and a live preview. Photos also does a better job at organizing multimedia-based file types. Videos and panoramas are now saved in a different folder. This makes things much easier. Another Android feature that I'm really glad to see come to iOS is auto app updates. Facebook gets audio-only calls, and Find My iPhone gets even more secure, requiring users to enter an Apple ID and password before they can turn it off. So thieves trying to turn off your location-based services will not be able to do so. iOS 7 supports iPhone 4 and later, iPad 2 and later, iPad mini, and iPod Touch 5th generation, and will be available sometime between September to November 2013. One major player in the local smartphone scene is Starmobile. While Starmobile phones are still made abroad, they are designed and engineered locally by a Filipino team. This week, we sat down with marketing manager Elijah Mendoza, and he talked about his company's strategy.
Starmobile is a Filipino-owned company. We're all Filipino, but with a global approach. We have different influences from different countries, but it's really made for Filipinos. We get feedback from our customers, and both online and offline. We get comments from our customer service, and then we incorporate all these learnings into our devices. We focus on what the end product will be. It's not about making a profit. It's about offering the best that we can to the Filipino consumer.
This June and July, Starmobile will be launching 4 new quad-core smartphones. TechRap got early access to the devices. Here's what to expect. Now, pay special attention to the Starmobile 9, which is one that really got us excited. If you recall, a couple of months back, we reviewed on TechRap the Starmobile, the original Starmobile Diamond. That was Starmobile's first foray into the phablet market. The V3 is not the third version of the phone. Instead, it actually means it's a 5.3-inch phone, and it is Starmobile's budget phablet. Take a look at this red logo, Starmobile logo. All new Starmobile phones that come with the red logo are quad-core phones. This is one of them, a 1.2 gigahertz quad-core processor. It has a 12-megapixel autofocus camera with BSI, or backside illumination technology. In front, it comes with a 2-megapixel front-facing camera. Now, it feels great in your hands, and even at 5.3 inches, it doesn't really feel that big. This 5.3-inch display is also made of Dragon Trail glass, which is a scratch-resistant glass. So that's it for the Starmobile Diamond V3. It comes out sometime in June or July. It's available in black and white, and will retail for 8,990 pesos. This is our first look at the Starmobile icon. If you take a look at this phone, especially the back of the phone, then it looks pretty familiar. If you are a TechRap viewer, then you probably can recall our Starmobile Flirt feature. And this pretty much reminds us of the Starmobile Flirt. On the back, you have an 8-megapixel camera with the backside illumination technology, that's BSI, and autofocus. In front, you have a 5-megapixel camera, also with autofocus. One feature of this phone that I really want to point out is the camera. Take a look at that circle over here. If you hold down on the camera, you can actually access some of the camera settings. Over here, I can change the auto white balance. So that's one of the new and interesting customizations that Starmobile has put into the icon. The icon is going to be on sale. It's going to go on sale at the end of the month, or the end of June, and should retail for somewhere under 10,000 pesos. Right now, I have the Starmobile Diamond V7. Now, this is a pre-production version of the phone. So in the back, while it says 13 megapixels here, like I said, this is a pre-production model. It'll come with an 18 megapixel camera with backside illumination technology. In front, it comes with an 8 megapixel front-facing camera. It runs Android version 4.2.1. Jelly Bean, which means you will have some new features. For example, this drop-down shade, you'll have access to this easy access control panel to turn the phone on airplane mode, turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Because this is a pre-production model, there's not a lot that I can show you inside the phone, but it's worth pointing out that this phone will come with a free flip case and a stylus. It'll attach magnetically to that accompanying flip case. The Starmobile Diamond V7 will be available in the month of July. We can't tell you about pricing at the moment, but it is definitely a phablet to look out for. And this is our first look at the Starmobile Night. This is an engineering model, so this is not the model that's going to come out, but it is almost reminiscent of an iPhone. It's 4.7 inches. It comes with a 720p HD display. But what's really interesting about this phone is it is a dual SIM phone, but you have a regular size SIM slot over here, but over here you actually have a micro SIM slot. So it really depends on what kind of SIM SIMs you use. And it's a great addition to have because a lot of the phones, a lot of smartphones today that you have now require micro SIM. So if you've cut your SIM already, then you can still use it on a phone like this. Or if you would much rather just use one SIM, and you have a standard size SIM, you can go ahead and do that. Let's take a look at the camera. Up in front, you have an 18 megapixel camera with backside illumination technology. That's an autofocus camera. And in front, you have an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, also with backside illumination technology. Here's one of the nifty new features. This is a video, and I know you've seen this feature in a lot of smartphones, in some of the smartphones today. So that's a video. I'm watching a video, and you can actually tap, and then you can basically press that button over here. And it's almost like a picture-in-picture mode, you know. If you so you can continue doing your other tasks. The video will float over whatever it is that you're doing. We can't talk about pricing at the moment, and we don't. Starmobile hasn't given us an exact date, but this phone is expected to be available in the Philippine market sometime in the month of July. This is the Starmobile Night.
And that was TechRap. For the latest news updates, follow Rappler.com on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and Instagram. I also don't mind being your 24/7 tech hotline, so email me if you have any tech questions or you need help picking out a new gadget. The email address is techrap@rappler.com, or if you just want to ask your question on Twitter, I'm always online, you can do so. Just use the hashtag TechRap. Also, don't forget, next week is Samsung's Premier 2013 event happening in London, and TechRap will be there to deliver all the latest announcements. That's all for this week, folks. I'm Michael Josh. Thanks for dropping by.